Up until this point, we have brought clips into the timeline by dragging them from the viewer into the canvas. Now we will use an audio file to show you several other ways that you can get a clip into your timeline. We need to do a couple of things to prepare our timeline to bring the clip in, and the first thing we want to do is we want to add a couple more audio tracks. Now you can add an audio track by simply right-clicking on the gray area and add track, and we're going to bring in a stereo pair, so go ahead and add 2 audio tracks. The next thing we want to do is make sure that these tracks are targeted, so go ahead and bring A2 down to A6 and A1 down to A5. The clip that we're going to work with is called Running the Sahara Different Fields. It's a music clip that's going to bring to life our promo. Now currently we're only seeing part of the clip, so I'm going to hit Shift-Z so we can see the entire music file. And obviously the composer worked very hard and gave us a lot of different versions. We're only going to use the very beginning. We don't need all 5 minutes and 11 seconds. I think about 30 seconds will be good, as we only have about 25 seconds of video. Go to the timecode duration text box and enter 3000 and hit return. Now we have an out point 30 seconds into our music. Well, we know we could have dragged this from the viewer into the canvas and everything would work just fine, but it's time to learn some new ways of doing things. One way of doing things is simply go over here and press the red overwrite button. As a matter of fact, there's a keyboard shortcut for that, which is F10. If we click this, you'll notice it puts the clip in exactly where we want. I'm going to hit Shift-Z so we can see the entire timeline, and we can see the clip went in perfectly. But let's try a couple of other ways of doing that. I'm going to go ahead and hit Undo. We saw that the keyboard shortcut of F10 was very useful. And as a matter of fact, I personally like to use a keyboard shortcut to bring my clips into the timeline. Now, depending on what keyboard you have on your Mac, it's going to work a little bit differently. If you have a traditional legacy Macintosh keyboard, the white keyboards that have been shipping for years, you can use your function keys without changing anything, and simply pressing F10 will bring that clip into your timeline. However, if you have one of the new aluminum keyboards or you're working off a laptop, you need to press the modifier key Fn before pressing the function key F10. You can make a modification to your system preferences so you don't have to hold down that Fn key before you hit your function key. Simply go to the Apple menu and select System Preferences. Once you're in System Preferences, I want you to click on Keyboard and Mouse. Now under Keyboard and Mouse, there's a little button here that you can check or uncheck. By default, this is unchecked. So when you press the function keys on your laptop or aluminum keyboards, you may increase or decrease screen brightness, increase or decrease volumes, and other actions. By checking this, those keys will now work as traditional function keys, and because you're editing most of the time on your systems, I usually keep this checked because the function key is much more important to me than being able to brighten or darken my screen. If you did want to brighten or darken your screen or increase or decrease the volume, you can still do that, but this time you hold down the Fn key to activate those special features. Now back in Final Cut. In addition to the F10 key, there's also a keyboard shortcut for an insert, and that would be the function key of F9. I'm going to zoom back a little bit before I hit the F9 key and you can see what happens. By pressing F9 at this point, you see we performed an insert edit and it threw everything out of whack. So of course that's not what we need to do in this specific instance, but it can be very useful when needing to perform an insert edit at the appropriate time. Let's go ahead and undo that. This is all leading me to my favorite way of bringing audio into Final Cut Pro, and that's simply dragging a clip from the viewer into the timeline. Now there's some special things that happen when you drag a clip from the viewer into the timeline, and Final Cut Pro follows a specific set of rules. I'm going to set up a couple things so you can see what it does and what it ignores. Let's move our track targeting to its original positions, A1 going to A1 and A2 going to A2, and I'm going to actually mark an in and an out point in my timeline. Now everything we've learned so far indicates that if I drag my clip from my viewer to my canvas, it's going to put this clip on track 1 and track 2. It's going to start it here and end it there. But when you drag a clip to the timeline, all these rules are ignored. As a matter of fact, if I drag this down and I'm going to grab it by the hand, Final Cut will let me drag and drop it wherever I want, ignoring track targeting and ignoring the in and out points. Why does it do this? Simple. It assumes that you know where you want to put your clip and that you don't care about the endpoints, you don't care about track targeting. And this is great because I can drag it where I want, slide it up, and I'm ready to go. There's a lot of ways to get your clips from the viewer to the timeline. You should pick the way that works best for you.